I've been waiting for this.
Welcome everybody to another TVFGC interview. We're here today with one of our special guests that we're going to be interviewing. You know, she's a TO, one of the hardest workers in the fighting game community that I see. It seems like she always has something going on, some sponsorship she has that she's partaking in, and just overall doing a lot for the FGC community. We have with us today Saki Sakura. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing really good actually. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this.
Oh, it's no problem. I mean, we're happy that you wanted to be on to be interviewed. You know, we're just happy to interview people who do so much for the FGC.
Yeah. It's awesome, honestly awesome. I truly, what's funny is when I first started like gaming, I
Mm.
actually never really enjoyed fighting. I used to get so mad at them. And for the longest time, I always said I hate fighting games. I'm never gonna play them. And then I started getting into Mortal Kombat 11, and I was like, you know what, fighting games, let's go.
Yeah, MK11 is definitely one of the most popular games out there. You know, definitely one of the best selling fighting games that we have. So it's understandable that that's the one that kind of pulled you into it. So,
Yes.
go ahead and starting off. Let's go ahead and get like your introductory. Introduce yourself. Who are you? Let the people know everything about you, so we can go ahead and get this kicking off.
So my name's my real name's Stephanie. So hi everyone. I'm actually known as Saki Sakura. I go by Saki a lot. I sometimes even go by Queen Mew. I am an NRS player as well as commentator for Dynamic Focus. In addition to not only competing and playing in fighting games, but I am also someone who runs the Queen of the Hill series. I am actually the co-founder of the series, and I am the lead TO and producer for it. Basically, the Queen of the Hill series is a series dedicated to women and non-binary competitors who are looking for a better space to compete in. And we provide that space on the online aspect, especially because of the pandemic right now.
Okay, so now that we got the introduction out of the way, everybody kind of got that, icebreaker for you. So you just kind of talked about this, so we'll hit this a little bit. So it seems like fighting games weren't like the original games that you were playing to get
No.
into gaming and stuff like that. So where does your foundation of games come from? What were you originally playing to get you into, gaming?
So a lot of people tend to actually probably notice this if they do follow me on Twitter. My original brand content, like the content that I was creating both on YouTube and Twitch, was actually based around Japanese role playing games. So I played a lot of Final Fantasy, I played a lot of Persona, I played a lot of Tales. Basically, RPG games were the main factor in my channel. In addition to that, I was usually mostly a console streamer, so there was a lot of other RPG games that I was playing in. I have touched on horror, but I think if there's any type of content that I've really focused on when it came to horror was like Dead by Daylight or some playthroughs like Silent Hill or Resident Evil. So yeah, but my original content honestly came from the role playing games. I like to joke a lot on Twitter that I have basically a harem of husbandos. So every husbando that I have found in a Japanese RPG game, I have probably already have them on my husbando list.
So speaking of games that you've been, into before, like fighting games and stuff like that, was Vainglory and Corpse Party games that you used to play a lot? Like,
Yes.
did you get many sleepless nights playing those games? From the addiction to them.
So fun fact, Corpse Party. So I didn't have a PC for the longest time. When I first started streaming, I started off with the PlayStation console, which is right here actually. And then I slowly upgraded my equipment to include like a laptop and a capture card and all the things that basically like make streaming. And one of the things that when I started growing, I was able to transfer was like some games in that mainstream series, but I couldn't really play the beginning. Like for example, Corpse Party, I had to kind of like wait for the port to come to the consoles. And now that like I have my PC right here, I actually can play those games that I had missed out on. But yeah, I knew Corpse Party, Vainglory. I knew. I've played a lot of visual novels, so some of them include, like I believe Clanend, if I'm not mistaken, is how it's pronounced. I've played other like Danganronpa. I'm starting to play Danganronpa now on my PC. Um, you name it, I'm probably, like I said, I've probably played it at some point, or will be planning to.
Aside from games, we hear you're like a really big sports fan. Did your dad really get you into that, like the Miami Heat, the Marlins, and all that other
Yes.
stuff? Tell us about your history of being a big sports fan.
So this is actually a really cool story to tell because this is sort of how like I started my journey into broadcasting and actually streaming. So first things first is my dad loves sports. I think he started off with golf and then he actually enjoyed baseball, but he loves watching football, basketball, baseball, and I remember growing up, sort of the like way to actually like spend time with him was to go to those games and was to watch those games. So I started sort of grew up like just if I wasn't playing the sport, I was actually watching it with him. And so there's obviously I'm a Florida person, so I'm gonna cheer for my homeroom, like my home team, like the Marlins and the Heat. But I really do like actually watching sports, and there was a point before I came over to like the gaming side, because I've always liked being a TV producer. So basically, I liked editing, I liked trying to create content, and trying to organize content. And so for the longest time, especially during my high school years, I was actually working and writing articles for sports websites.
Yeah,
And
you
one of
went
them
to
is actually the W2M network. Like huge shout outs to them. I actually have a couple of sports and podcasts that I did with them. I used to do sports radio as well. And I used to do actual play-by-plays. So there's some teams, like for example, the Miami Heat team, that actually followed me when I was doing those play-by-plays for their games.
Yeah, so you used to really like be into live tweeting the games and stuff like
Yeah.
that you went to and stuff like that. And
TV production in high school is where I fell in love. So my high school, um, I had like a really good TV production teacher.
the
I
TV
guess
Pro
shout
Crew,
outs to
correct? The TV
yes,
Pro Crew, it was what you were a part of.
yes. Shout outs to Emilio Leonard. He taught me pretty much a lot of what I know today and some more. And he kind of helped me fall in love with like TV production. And one of the things I used to do is I've actually recorded sports games. So I used to do volleyball. I used to do basketball. I've recorded shows before, like I did our musicals, and I've edited them before as well. And other like different activities that we did around the school. So a lot of like the curriculum that I had came from high school and college. And yeah, so it's wild that like it just seems so ages ago. And I know I'm young because I think I'm turning 24 this year. I think I always, when it comes to numbers, I always like blank out. But it's wild because that seems like a forever ago compared to like the person that I am now, which is more based on like creating events and gaming. So
Another thing, I guess, you kind of brought it up. So, when I say these two names, what does it remind you of? Like CJ Grips and The Last Time Out. Like, what are those two? Do those ring any bells?
the last time out,
SCU and
so
Saki.
okay, oh yeah, so that
Is
used
that
to
one
be
of the
an old
podcasts
podcast.
you do?
Yes, that's my God. I'm telling you, this is like ages ago. So I'm sure the account's somewhere still, but there used to be a show that I used to do with Stephen and if those of you guys who don't know him, he's actually a really cool content creator for sports. He does a lot of local sports and a lot of broadcasts, especially during the pandemic too. Um, but we used to do a podcast with him. I used to do another podcast too with Eric Watkins, I think his name was, also known as the Squid, for some weird, like really weird reason that we won't get into. But those two were and are still one of my closest friends, I want to say. Even though we may not like talk to each other as much as we used to, they were definitely one of the two people that like impacted a lot of how I go about in my content creation and sort of like my professionalism. One of the like first people to help me. And yeah, so definitely Steven was someone that I used to do a full-on podcast with. We had to kind of stop that, and then I did one with Eric for a little bit, and then I just focused on gaming.
Speaking of you focusing on gaming, like, how did you actually transition into the FGC? Like, everybody kind of has that story of the first tournament they attended, or, I was talking to a friend one day and he was just like, hey, you should come to this tournament that I'm going to. Like, what's Saki Sakura's story? Saki Sakura, I'm sorry, of getting into the FGC.
So, this is gonna sound super cliche and super like, I guess it's just gonna sound interesting. So this story starts with Injustice 2, and the very end of Injustice 2, like the NRS community had already was going back into MKX. I think MK11 probably was already announced. And I had gotten Injustice 2 just because of Starfire, right? But I never, like I said, I never really played fighting games, and I was like really not looking to actually, play because again, I didn't think I was good. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get it because I really like this character, and that's it. And I say that because keep in mind this kind of affects how I play in like in the games that I play now. But I had a significant other at the time, and my partner was like, hey, I'll get you MK11 if you play with me. And I'm like, I guess I could play with you. I'm not gonna promise you I'm gonna be good or I'm gonna have fun with it, but I guess we could play. And when I got MK11, and this was also too when he told me that, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and check out what it looks like. And I remember one time I was going to like a GameStop and I saw Jade being played, and I'm like, yo, she's a character in there. She looks kind of cool. And when I got the actual game and I was able to download it, I started playing it on stream, and I saw that a lot of people not only came to the stream, but I was also understanding the game too in more ways than one. I tried Katana first, and then I got to Jade, and I was like, you know what? I really like Jade, so let me try. And I played with my significant other. Like, he beat me in Injustice 2 super bad, obviously, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I never touched Injustice 2 ever since then. But then when I started touching MK11 and I actually showed like, yo, I kind of know what I can do. Yeah, I need to practice, but I think I can be really good at this. And that's when it kind of started. I just was like, you know what? I really want to get better at this game. Let me see what I can do.
Having Injustice 2 was one of the games of the Queen of the Hill series, was kind of like in connection with your origin stories.
You could say that. So when I started in MK11, I actually was part of a group called Babality, which is basically a bunch of women who were in the NRS community, and they actually got to play. And shout out to Lumia and Manuska for actually creating this group, because this group held and still holds a huge chunk of kind of like the origin story of where I come from when it comes to MK11 and fighting games. This sort of group that allowed not only representation, but also a feeling of like being part of a community helped me tremendously. And so when we were doing Queen of the Hill series, we knew that there was plenty of women who had done Injustice 2. And one of the things that the MK community or the NRS community does a lot is they like to go back and forth on the games, on prior games. So in the case of MK11, while they wouldn't go back to MKX so much, they definitely would be going back to like Injustice 2 and then maybe MKX and then back and forth. And, you tend to like follow that trend or that pattern in the community. And so during the Injustice 2 pop-up event that we did for Queen of the Hill, that was the idea. It was, okay, we know there's enough ladies to play because all of the ladies have mentioned that they've played and that they enjoy it. Let's go ahead and take care of it. Like, let's do it.
So, would you say that Mortal Kombat is your favorite fighting game series? Like, is that like a certified yes for you?
So, MK is definitely one of my favorite fighting series. For sure, it's like on the top there. I am, however, getting into Guilty Gear, so I have been enjoying Guilty Gear a lot. Yes, I've been playing Accent Core for a bit. I haven't touched it too much because I didn't want to get used to the controls. I definitely want to wait for Strive and see how it goes, but for sure, I've been definitely enjoying those two series. I've also been enjoying Grand Blue. If only the netcode was a little bit better, I would totally be playing more Grand Blue. But yeah, those three are probably one of my favorite series right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna say like some a phrase, and you tell me if this phrase like jogs any memories for you. So, one more depending on a prayer, and we all look away. People pretending everywhere is just another day. Does that bring any memories up for you?
One more depending on a prayer.
There's bullets flying through the air, and they still carry on. We watch it happen over there, and then just turn it off.
That sounds like an old, a very old poem that I used to work, like actually I wrote about. that
It's a
I
Nickelback song. When we stand together. Did you like actually
Oh,
sing that in high school?
I did. Oh my god, please. Oh, that's like cringe-worthy moments. I'm like because I used to write, so there was a couple of songs that were like inspired by those poems that I wrote like a while back, like a huge while back ago. But I think one of my first videos was that. Um, I that's like so cringe if I bring out my youthful lingo. Because I used to play guitar and piano, and I at one point music was a passion that I was pursuing. So that was one of the shows we did for Christmas. And yeah, that's way back, my dude.
We try to do our research. So
No, I can tell. I'm a little like taken aback that that's like all the research. Like that's how far the research going. But yeah, I actually still have my guitar. I already sold the piano because I wasn't really used to like actually playing piano. But I still have my guitar, and uh, albeit the strings are probably like super damaged, and I probably have to take it for repairs and a tune up. But I used to play guitar. It used to be something that I was really, really into. And yeah.
so we'll get back to like gaming for a little bit. So what was the first fighting game major that you actually attended?
I have not attended a major actually. I was planning to attend Combo Breaker, which was going to be the first one that I was going to attend out of state, and unfortunately, because of the pandemic, that got canceled. I have been to CEO Dreamland though. If you want to try to count that as a major, but that was honestly playing in a local that was using CEO Dreamland as a venue to play MK11.
Getting more into like FGC, like how did your relationship start with Dynamic Focus? That's a brand that you're sponsored by, and you guys work really hard for stuff in the FGC, always doing something. It's real motivating to see the work you guys do, so, and the work ethic you guys have. So how did that relationship with Dynamic Focus start?
So this kind of touches on a sort of, I wouldn't say open wound, but it definitely kind of touches on a sensitive topic, but a topic that does contribute to the connections that I have today. I first started off in Valkyrie's organization as the event planner or producer. I did so many jobs on that team that um, it's a long story, but at one point the CEO of the organization was in close contacts with Dynamic Focus CEO, and I was invited to participate in a streamer event for MK11. And between my commentating as well as my play style, this attracted Dynamic Focus to definitely look into me. And between the work that I was doing for the Valkyries organization and my own hard work in both my content creation um, and in my competitive career, it definitely made them reach out so that I could join their team. And the relationship that we have now is really, I want to say it's definitely a relationship of growth for sure. Because there are things that I have learned about the industry and the scene that I didn't really know before when I first started, and it's helped me navigate. The other thing too is also with this relationship, I've been able to understand like my own growth and my own value as both a content creator and a competitive player. Um, and when it comes down to actual business, it's, you know, they're the investors of the series, and we have a pretty good relationship, where they definitely let me do what I need to do to not only create the series but also have the creative freedom for it. And they're very understanding of that as well. And they understand the message and the actual point of the series, where they're very like, you know what, here you go, Saki, do what you gotta do. You know, this is your series. We just want to make sure our money is going to, you know, where it needs to go to. And yeah, so it's a very good relationship, very healthy, I would say, and definitely quite different than what I had in my prior organizations. But yeah.
So, kind of taking that, that's a really like impactful story about doing hard work and stuff in the FGC. So, would you say there's anybody in the FGC that you look up to who can, somebody that you kind of like look up to and you aspire to be or do the things that they do or to make the impacts that they make within the FGC? Or is there someone that you just look at that's just like an inspiration to you just because of like, who they are, the people they influence and things like that?
So I definitely would say that the person I probably look up to the most is Cuddlecore. I have seen Cuddlecore. Granted, I wasn't really there from when she first started her journey, but I have seen like her results, both as a competitive player and as a content creator. And seeing her come from so much trials and tribulations, and then to be where she is at now, is someone that I really look and inspire to. And I hope to one day be on the same level as her. But I would definitely say that my inspiration has to be Cuddlecore for sure.
Yeah, Core is doing like amazing work within the FGC, and she's really doing things that people within the FGC can look at and just be like, oh, I didn't even realize you could reach heights like this. With all the sponsorships, all the opportunities, all the money that they're raising for the different causes and stuff like that. Stuff like that is like really what the FGC needs to see to understand that you can really make an impact and stuff like this, and honestly like make a career out of this, if you just follow your dreams and stuff. So Kodakor is definitely somebody to look up to. Another question: you were nominated most different in high school?
I guess it's been so long. like that's stuff that I don't really remember too well, to be honest. I so I Mental health awareness month, so I do want to kind of like give a little bit of like a trigger warning. But in high school I was not, well, in middle school I was bullied a lot. And in middle school, between the ages of middle school and high school, I was dealing with a lot of low self-esteem. In addition to that, I when I was like 13, I attempted suicide. And I've always dealt with anxiety and depression. And when it comes to like high school, it's such a blur. There's only a few things I remember, and that's honestly like TV production and just reading a book during lunch, because there was just so much happening in my life emotionally, mentally, that I just wasn't really. I was just focused on getting my degree. And there was a point in my life where, especially in my senior year, where I found out my stepmom, had breast cancer, and I was just like devastated, because it was such a in-depth level of the cancer, where she could have died. I think it was either stage 3 or 4, and again, she could have died. And so in my last year of high school, I was like, you know what, can I just get my degree? Like, I did, all the credits. I've done dual enrollment. I've done everything. Just give me my degree at this point. There's no reason I should be here. And after a little bit of like pushing, I was able to get it. But yeah, it was it high school for me was just so like bland. Like, I didn't even go to prom or homecoming or any of those like fun things that you would do when you're in high school, because I was just dealing with so much more, and I grew up too fast, unfortunately. But yeah, so if I was nominated, great. nobody really voted for me. Fun fact though, there are a couple of people who went to high school with me, and they're in the FGC, and they're just like, "Yo, I remember you," and I'm like, "Yeah, don't talk to me about me back in high school, because I don't remember how I was."
That's understandable, and good thing that you're really progressing through all that you said. Is great that you're really like standing, seeming like you're doing well now. So that's great. I know I can understand a lot of people within the FGC could have that testimony of just like those high school days. You're not being like everybody else, and people kind of having their own opinions and bullying you and all these other things. So that's definitely something that a lot of people in the FGC can relate to, and I'm glad to hear you're doing better with that.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But
uh,
yeah, that's just like a side note. That's why in my content, a lot of the times um, I really try to hold like, hey, if you're going through something, I'm here. Don't trauma dump me, but know that there is someone you can talk to when I'm actually stable and ready to hear you out.
kind of a question about your name. Sakura is based off the flower, but does it still frustrate you sometimes when people get it confused with the Naruto character?
Yes. There's been times in streams where they're like Sakura, like the useless character, and I'm like, no, 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 it's not her. I am named Sakura after the cherry blossom tree because I like cherry blossoms. They're my favorite flower. And Saki just comes from the fact that when I used to do mobile gaming, the actual platform for the game didn't allow many characters when you were typing and communicating. So instead of having to write Sakura and not write SAK like Sak, they just went ahead and they called me Sakii, and I've stayed with that ever since.
We'll get into one more like personal question for you, and then we'll do our last question about FGC. So, is it true that you worked at Ross at one point?
I did. That's kind of crazy. Yes, I did used to work at Ross. I had to leave that job before I went to my current one. Because again, it was around the same time that my stepmom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had to leave my house for a little bit because of just the situation, and I ended up getting another job, which is my current job that I've been at for like 5 years.
Yeah, I know working at jobs like retail and stuff like that can be pretty frustrating with people leaving stuff where it's not supposed to be, and all that other stuff. It's a lot of picking up after people and stuff like that when you work in retail. So
Yeah. Ross was not fun. I stayed up until like 4 in the morning sometimes doing inventory, and it was just not fun. It wasn't.
so FGC question. So basically, what's the story of the inception of the Queen of the Hill series? Like, how did that come about? Was it just something that out of like just desire and passion that you had to do something in the FGC you came up with yourself, or was it just like a move that you and a lot of people came together and decided that, hey, we're gonna do this within the FGC? So like, how did the Queen of the Hill series come about?
So the Queen of the Hill series came honestly from the idea of Seisaji. And shout outs to her. I know that she had a lot of going on, so wherever she is now, I hope she's doing well. But for the longest time, she had wanted to do something because she was inspired by me and many other content creators. And she came to me when I was under the Valkyries organization, because we were working together. And she's like, Saki, I want to do an event, and I want to put up this money, and I want to make it. I want to try to make it as big as possible. And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. Do you want like help with this? Do you want other orgs involved? And she was very very interested in the idea. And when we went ahead and introduced the idea to Dynamic Focus and to Valkyries at the time, it was an idea that was spawned out of just trying to bring something to the women competitors of the scene, and also the non-binary competitors as well. um, Babality had already been kind of like not dead, but it was definitely inactive for the longest. And we hadn't really seen any events for women as consistent. And so we decided to do the Queen of the Hill series. and it was an 8-week series where we did it for MK, and it was really fun to do. For the longest time, I was behind the producing. Seisaji was just more of like, hey, here's the idea. I'll be in chat helping out and things like that. And so we worked together like that until the Injustice 2 event, where she had to kind of pick up and do her work, with school and just with her life in general. And I took it there at that point to continue the series, where we continued with Street Fighter V, and we just finished Soul Calibur. So the idea really just spawned and was created out of the fact that there's really nothing happening right now, not only for the scene as like the community in general, but in the entirety for the women of and like the competitors. This is a series that unfortunately there's a lot of competitors who really don't get a chance to be seen, even during when we were back in majors and offlines. So this series was based off of the idea that these are actual competitors. They're hungry to do more, or they're really nervous to compete because they're scared of the environment that they're in. And this is a series where, hey, you don't have to be scared, or hey, you're going to be showcased because of your skill, where we went ahead and created this series for it.
Okay, and like I said, Queen of the Hill series is definitely one of the tournaments that we here at TVFGC keep up with. We try to make sure that when you guys do your tournaments and stuff like that, we really highlight them, because it's like a lot of times in the FGC, what you don't find a lot of is like consistency, like people consistently pushing and doing the work that they do. And one thing you guys do is really consistent, and it's great to hear, like even through like whatever the issues and stuff that went on behind the scenes, that you guys was able to like salvage what you were doing to keep going. Yes. Because after the Injustice series, I think even I was sitting there like, okay, so which game is going to be next, like, and then I think the Street Fighter one was after the Injustice, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was starting in December, and then we had to unfortunately take a break because there was some creative differences, as well as some financial issues that we had to kind of like clear up first, as well as branding and overall doing a whole rebranding to actually move forward. So that's why we took like the 2-week break right before the holidays, and we came back the way we did during the January month. It one of the things that I'm really proud of myself and my team is that no matter what trial or tribulation or issue or problem, we do not let it stop us. We always try to find solutions. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I like to tell people when they come across, like, let's say if they have a bad event, or they're trying to figure out what to do with their content or with their events. And the biggest thing is like, there's a time and a place to complain and to like cry or be frustrated. But the majority of the time is, okay, there's a problem, you need to fix it. And you need to fix it like then and there. You can't let it just sit there and fester, and then your whole entire series is ruined. And so one of the things that when we had to do that break that was very sudden, and we came back as strong as we did, it was the key thing of being part of the reason why we were so consistent is because my team and myself, we did not just sit there and give up. We actually moved forward, and we tried to say, okay, what's the ideal situation or scenario that we can get out of here where we are giving the competitors what they are competing for? Because that's the thing too, is that like we could have easily just said, you know what, we don't care, we never cared in the first place, we never wanted to do this in the first place, we were just doing it for the numbers, and that's it. It's not working out, there's this problem, let's move all of our separate ways. But the thing is that with the Queen of the Hill series, like I mentioned before, we don't just care about creating a tournament and then you play and you go. We care about creating a tournament and the experience, because right now that's all that there is. So when we had those issues, that was one of the things that we said, okay, what is that scenario where they can still get that experience and they're not going to get basically ripped off. Even though they didn't pay anything, but we were very concerned because we wanted to make sure that they got paid, got paid, they enjoyed the series and whatnot. And so that's why when I really look back at like some of our most toughest times in the series, it's honestly just the fact that this is truly out of passion and love for competing and for the community. And we can't just simply give it up because right now this is all we have. So
It's great to hear that because a lot of people really don't see the behind the scenes or what it takes to really give this fighting game content or make these things happen. The content that people create or the endeavors that they go on, and to hear that behind the scenes of like we went through this, we went through that, this happened. It really shows like the people that truly have the passion in the FGC that really want to see the stuff grow. you know because a lot of times when you see stuff on Twitter, you just see a post. You just see a post, but you don't really get to see the behind the scenes of the hard work and dedication it takes to really do these things, to put on for a community that we do just because we love it, not that it's like lucrative to a certain degree, like you can get a lot from it, like people would say esports and stuff like that. So it's great to have people that have that passion, and you coming out and saying this, hopefully somebody can take that and be motivated to keep pushing at whatever that they have going on, because everyday life can make it seem like like when you look at your priorities, like, oh, maybe this fighting game stuff has to stop. Maybe I need to like let it go and focus on other priorities, and then next thing you give up your passion and the thing that you love. So it's really great to hear that story, so thank you for sharing that.
yeah, it's no problem. Honestly, I try my hardest because my team is literally myself, um, and my Pie Bear, she's my assistant, and Aziza from Dynamic Focus because she's the investor, and it's literally ran entirely by me, with the organization coming from Pie Bear, and it's it's literally a huge job for one person. And one of the things I like to point out is just the amount of hard work that is going into it, and with limited resources. Like we were talking about earlier about how like I got my PC. I was doing the first two series on a laptop. I wasn't doing it on a PC that was like high end. And so when I made that PC goal, I was also doing my PC goal with like a deadline, because I could not do or continue the Street Fighter series until I got a PC. And that was one of the things that why I was struggling and trying to push so hard to get it. And we were able to, thank God. But um, literally on limited resources, we've done these series, and unlimited personnel. And I say this because a lot of people think that just running an event is super easy, and it's not. But if you have that passion and you enjoy what you do just the way that I enjoy what I do, then you can do it. You just need to be strong, and you need to have a good support system. And you just got to do it. There's no other like. And also too, it's also this idea of like when I hear people say, you know what, we're just doing this event, whatever, it is what it is. If it went wrong, it went wrong. But the thing is that like you can't think like that, because that's how people become inconsistent. And when you're consistent and you're actually like you have that good support system and you have that organization, you slowly become consistent. Like for example, the Soul Calibur series, it went super well, definitely better than our prior series, but there's a lot more that we learned as far as when it comes to growth and making things easier for us, that helps us in growing and becoming more consistent. And that's something that I get a lot of questions like, how do you do it, Saki? Like I would be overwhelmed, and I'm like, I am but I love what I do. And I'd rather do this than stay home and do nothing, or be in a place where I wouldn't really want to be. So yeah.
We can definitely understand like doing stuff from the passion, even with limited resources. The first, hopefully nobody goes and look this up, but the first interviews and skits and stuff we were doing to formulate TV FGC were shot and edited on an iPhone. So you
Oh,
you can
wow.
imagine like trying to do like 30-minute video editing on like an iPhone, and then next thing you know is it was on a 64 gig iPhone, so that goes away real fast. Trying to import media into it and stuff like that, and it was. We definitely understand, like doing it from a laptop. We were doing it from an iPhone, so
Yeah.
that passion will open doors for you and to make opportunities and stuff where need be and stuff like that. Now the production that we have, we're like really really thankful for. We not on the Queen of the Hill production yet, but we trying to get there.
Someday you will. Like I said, a lot of the knowledge that I came from comes from from my schooling and from just my desire to learn. Like, for example, we added timers in the middle of the series, and I was like, yo, I can make this in like After Effects. Let me like take the hour to do it. And there's just a lot of people are just really surprised sometimes that I come out and I'm like, yeah, I know how to do this. The biggest thing though is just you have to just be passionate about what you like and what you do. I wouldn't say expect money from this, because quite honestly, this is a job that doesn't pay. Creating this series doesn't pay. Creating events doesn't pay. Handling competitors doesn't pay. Um, and this is across the entire board of the FGC. There's a lot of things in the FGC that goes without basically being paid, and people don't realize that a lot of the stuff we do is literally out of the love and appreciation of being part of a community. And so when I see a lot of people again just kind of like giving up, or they're entering in the wrong reasons, I'm one of the first people to tell them, if you're doing it for like money, do not be here. Take that skill set somewhere else, because you're not going to be contributing the way that you should be contributing. In addition to that, contributing into an actual positive factor. And a lot of the times people misunderstand that, or people don't really understand, and that's where their growth gets stunted. So yeah.
We've come to the end of this interview, so that's all the questions that I have for you. But is there anything, last things that you want to say to anybody who has made it this far within the interview? Is there any last words that you want to give them? Maybe something to look forward to from you and your team, or just some words that's just laid upon you just to say. So, floor is yours.
So, if depending on when this video is coming out, hopefully it comes out within this month. But I'm currently raising money for St. Jude Research Hospital. We just got to 200 today. I updated at the time of this interview to 500. If you guys are interested, be sure to follow my socials. I'm known as Saki Sakura TV all across the board, from Twitter, TikTok to Instagram, as well as on Discord. And yeah, so if you guys want to help out, that's always appreciative. For anybody who's like new to content creation and who's new to just like the community in general, the one advice that I really want to give you is just never give up, and do things that you're gonna enjoy. Don't just do them because they're the cool thing to do, because you're going to burn out and you're going to run out of things that can help you and your brand faster than you being yourself. So definitely just keep being you. If I can keep being me, you can keep being you. And yeah, and as far as Queen of the Hills, you guys can follow it at the QOTHS on Twitter. And that's where we are right now. We are going to be probably introducing MK pretty soon again. I can 100% tell you that. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, we thank you for actually joining us and doing the interview. It was a pleasure speaking to you. So thank you guys for watching this far. Thank you guys for supporting the content, and we'll see you next time on another TVFGC interview.